Welcome to Ask a Transamorous Man. My name is Troy Kennedy, and I'm back. So, it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without some deep thoughts to bless you. So, the topic today is there are levels to this shit. Once again, there are levels to this shit. I'm going to start with a disclaimer. It's so important that I wrote it down because I want to be clear in the beginning of what my intentions are. I am in no way blaming anyone who has suffered from violence or has been murdered by men who have a fragile hold on their masculinity or their sexuality. This discussion is needed to highlight the dangers of the so-called straight trade, DL men, and men who don't have a clear understanding about the differences between gender identity and sexual orientation. Now, we never talk about what a trans-attracted man, a trans-amorous man's journey looks like, where he starts, how he struggles, how he overcomes it, and how he gets to being trans-amorous. And that's really, really important. So that's why the title is, There Are Levels to This Shit. Now, in the beginning, I struggled mightily. I'd been dating trans women right now for almost 36 years. But in the beginning, I struggled really, really hard. It was almost more than I can bear because I was alone, like I was out at sea in a boat without a rudder. And I was engulfed by fear. And in my case, because this is my journey, the fear was unfounded. The fear was not real. And so in having these discussions, I always point to the movie After Earth with Will Smith and his quote that he gave to his son about fear. And it goes like this: fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not in present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is real, but fear is a choice. Now, during that evolution, I made a lot of poor choices. I hurt a lot of people. I hurt myself. A lot of it was from my own ignorance and my own cowardice. Now, when you're dealing with men who are at the very beginnings of their trans attraction, they're curious. A lot of them don't understand the flood of emotions, how our social conditioning, how our religion has totally impacted how we feel about who we are and how we view gender and how we view sexuality. And most of us aren't equipped to handle that flood of emotion that comes with that. So knowing where a man is, if he's just starting out as curious, if he's now he's attracted to trans women. And a lot of us get into what I call the Pokemon stage. Right after that attraction is kind of set in, where we got to catch them all. But that's not really that different from what we do when we discover cis women. When young men start to have sex and they try to have sex with every woman they know. So it's really not that different, but some men stay in that little phase. They want to catch them all. They're selfish. They don't think about anyone else. And they do things that hurt themselves and hurt others. But they're only chasing their lust and their desires. Then you get to where you become trans-amorous, where you accept yourself and you love yourself enough to love someone else. And that's where trans-amorous comes in, and being trans-supportive. But if you catch a man who has never dealt with a trans woman, or who has never addressed whatever, I hate to call them kinks, but sexual kinks, anything that's out of what's considered heteronormative, that man may not be ready to deal with that sex, because emotionally he's a child, he's a baby, and he doesn't know what to do with all of that emotion, with all of that self-hate. So that's really, really important. So looking at the recent conviction of Devon Washington, here was a man who was a straight trade. If you watch the trial, you'll see part of a video where he walked back and forth, deciding not to go to this party or go to this party, and the confusion in that pacing. But unfortunately, or fortunately, or part of the truth, is that his mother and I believe his sister were both lesbians, so I didn't understand the problem he had with understanding sexuality or sexual orientation. But he was dangerous because he didn't know how to deal with it. And this man turned around and murdered 3 people. Then he ran because he was a coward, but he was afraid of what people would think. That's not on anyone but him. But you have to understand that there are some men out there who are dangerous. There are some men out there who don't love themselves enough. And when they cross that bridge, it leads to just danger for all those around them. So it's important that we acknowledge that. That's really about it. One other thing. There are a lot of men who have and are infected with fragile masculinity. They are searching for something to hold on to, and anything that's outside of being cis heteronormative is dangerous for those around them. You need to keep your eyes open. You need to keep your head up. And you need to not take chances with men who don't know themselves. It's a dangerous combination. It's volatile. We need to talk about it. I want to do a part 2 on this, but I just wanted to touch on it. Listen to your comments and your feedback, and we talk about it. We might talk about it on my Facebook page. I might bring it back here to YouTube. But let's start talking. Because when we stay in our own corners, nothing gets done. And we still deal with the same problems we've always dealt with. Let's be different. Let's be better. Stay safe. Watch out for the Rona. I'm out.